See so.
Well, we got three of us.
Yep.
Yeah. All right, so you get yourself attached.
Yeah.
And we'll start our meeting.
Dan might be with us for a little while, but we're also meeting tonight at 6:30, so he's gonna be hopping back.
That's fine.
Do we know that Steve and Marie are not coming? Oh, I'm sorry.
Yep.
Okay, this is Wayne Wilson at the table here. I'm gonna call the short-term rental committee meeting to order at 6:01. Yeah, you can with that. We have 4 committee members present, so we do have a quorum. I'm not sure if Steve's gonna join us via Zoom, but I guess we'll find out when that happens. Okay, so let's, I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes of the previous meeting.
Make that motion.
Okay, has everyone had a chance to read the minutes? Do we have any omissions or additions to make on the minutes of the previous meeting?
I move that we accept the minutes as submitted.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Right.
And the vote is unanimous, meaning previous minutes are accepted as submitted. Okay, so I think the first thing on our agenda should be where we left off. We have our committee draft. Oh, here he is. Welcome, Steve. That we've been making
Well, you gotta take this.
I'm good.
amendments to since we began. So I think we should go through it and make some final decisions on the amendments that we made or any of the rental short-term definitions or whatever the case may be that we need to go over.
If there's any help at all.
Go ahead.
Mr. Chairman, I went through the various input that we have here. Check off the list and.
Sure, that's
Okay.
the easiest way. Go ahead.
All right, I'm gonna start with,
Let me kill this.
that's really loud.
When you're working with saws and such, you need a lot, or you don't hear it.
Steve had mentioned in the last meeting, the planning board had a couple of things that they wanted to think about. And we basically addressed a couple of them, one being the limit of the number of short-term rentals on a percentage basis. Is what we did. One of the things that they talked about was the special permit not being attached to the property, that it's actually issued to the owner operator. Should you know anything about that?
Yes,
Okay.
I think there should definitely be language here that in this particular special permit, it's kind of like the same special permit that someone gets when they open a business. Obviously, if the business ceases to exist, so doesn't the special permit,
Okay.
right? So you know what I mean? So I'm not sure if that needs to be specific language, but I certainly think it would help.
Would it make sense? We do have Dan here. maybe he has something that would get to this directly, or should we try to feel out some language for this?
I was actually typing up a motion when you said that. I think Steve had a suggestion regarding the permit running with the property or running with a person. I forgot. I think I missed that part.
Well, Dan, the question would be, under normal zoning situation, a special permit would go to the property, it gets recorded at the registry of deeds.
Right.
And it would pass on to another owner. Obviously, this special permit is not for something physical, it's for business use, so.
Yeah.
It would, do we need to put specific language in our special permit conditions that it doesn't follow the property to a new owner?
It does not follow the property.
As will be the same thing with the license to operate a B&B. I mean, a short term, right? Someone comes in and has this, assuming it comes to that fruition, doesn't go with the property, it goes to the operator.
So that means the operator can then take it to somewhere else?
No, it means that, like,
No,
Wayne Wilson gets a permit to use 4 Spring Road.
Yep.
7 Spring Road, I should say, my actual house.
Yep.
And
And
and I sell my house to Rob Thibault.
Right.
The permit to operate the short-term rental doesn't transfer it to Rob Thibault.
Right.
Yeah, I think we might need language for that, just to make sure it's crystal clear. I think that's a good idea. Just to add, a line or two saying it does not travel with the property, and the property is sold, then the registration or the social permit is null and void at that point.
So, Mr. Chairman, should we entertain a motion in concept as far as our support of adding a feature such as this?
Yes, absolutely.
Town
Yeah,
council.
let me ask
Go ahead.
Dan. So Dan, how this work if, for example, today you own the property in your name and then you transfer that to a trust?
Right.
That's technically a transfer of the property to a trust, but
It is.
would that also cancel the permit?
I don't know, to be honest with you. I can look into that. I would think there would be some issues with that. We might have to look at the language or the conditions of the special permit to be sure, but I can get you an answer. I don't want to just shoot off the top of my head at the moment, because that's a great question. I know it, in like Title V, certain transactions require an inspection, certain transactions don't. So this might fall into that sort of area, but I'll find out. But I think the question on the floor is more black and white in that, it's a whole different entity, not just, the people of the corporation.
So is the question on the floor, is a permit transferable? And I think we're in agreement that it is not.
Correct.
Right, our intent is to not,
Correct.
no.
You might want to put, well, we can talk more about this later, but like I said about Title V says, like, as Wayne knows, if Wayne sells to Rob, Title V inspection is required to make that transaction occur. But if Wayne sells to Wayne Beneficial Trust, it's really the same person at the end of the day, then one is not required. So maybe some language would be helpful in that regard, but I'll get you guys a better answer for next time. Okay. But I think the intent, I understand the intent. We can certainly put some language together to affect that.
So do we want to actually write up an actual motion that it's our intention that it's not a transfer of property upon sale?
Well,
Someone want to make a motion to that effect?
I don't think we need a motion. That minutes will reflect that it is the unanimous consensus of the committee that any short-term rental permits are considered non-transferable unless exceptions are enumerated.
Oh, I like that. That's good. Mhm.
Steve,
Yeah.
Steve, you in?
You know, an agreement?
In theory, it's the same issue with the license. So if they have a short-term rental.
Well, that will
license,
goes
you
with
get
the
the same
license.
trust issue. as
The
far as-
license is not
transfer.
transferred with the property.
Yeah.
Yes?
Okay,
Okay, I think we're in
so
agreement.
that works, Dan?
Yeah, that works. What I can do is put together a draft bylaw that would reflect your consent, well, unanimous consent, so to speak.
Our
And then
unanimous intent.
intent, yeah, right. And then eventually you could say this bylaw looks good and we'll vote on that bylaw. So that works. Just make, so Rob, when you give me those draft minutes, make sure you just highlight that part because that is almost just under a motion, right? So still requires me to take some action. So that's fine.
So we're good?
Yep,
Okay.
Thank you in advance, Dan.
you bet.
Next thing that the planning board had mentioned was the number of bedrooms. They offered a suggestion, I don't know how firm they are on it, but maybe it's just a suggestion, of four guest bedrooms and one owner bedroom for a total of 5.
I think you're interpreting that wrong. They offered
Okay,
4 at a maximum of 4 bedrooms to be rented out, 2 guests per bedroom plus one additional person. And a person.
that's what I tried to just say. I don't know what.
You may,
One additional for the owner, like the.
well,
4 plus 1.
it's a common
Yeah,
mistake.
but it's 4 plus 1. It's like 2 people plus a baby, for example, in the bedroom.
I'm not talking about people, I'm talking about bedrooms.
My understanding is that it is our intent to stay consistent with the housing code, which identifies no more than 3 residing within the second degree of kinship and in conformance with the allowances of the housing code and the building code. Of course, I'm referring to square footage and legality of rooms as bedrooms, et cetera.
Now, how does that apply as far, I mean, this is a license to basically rent a hotel room. And I mean, as far as the degree of
Understood.
kinship.
Mhm.
Is that still?
That shouldn't
coming in the
be,
same mix?
I don't see how that should possibly mix into this one.
It's part of the housing code.
I understand that, but what I'm saying is because this is the short-term nature of
It's
this,
not residence.
and I think our language to this point has been, at one point, we were discussing the number of actual lawful bedrooms that happen to exist in the building,
Mhm.
right? If you have a 3-bedroom home, it's a 3-bedroom home.
That's
You can't
right.
rent it to 22 people. Right? So I don't think.
Which would be
So do
inconsistent.
we want to set a maximum of the number of bedrooms, or are we just gonna,
think
I
it
thought
should
we
be.
were gonna leave it at the lawful number of existing bedrooms.
Correct.
Yeah, I agree with that. Lawful number of
Correct.
bedrooms, that's easy. Everybody knows what that means.
So we just leave
There
it.
are houses with more than 3 or 4 bedrooms,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll just,
So I think we should leave it the way we had it written already. 2 per bedroom lot, times the number of lawful bedrooms.
I agree. Next, I have suggestions from Dan Scrip. First one on my list is defining primary residence.
Yes.
I can read the memo or?
You want to read? Yeah, give it a quick read. It's not that.
All right. From Dan Scrip, I've looked at the issue of using the term principal residence or legal residence in reviewing MGL CMR and our own zoning bylaws. It is clear that principal residence is the better choice. Not only do the state tax statutes and regs use that term, but the Homestead Protection Act goes so far as to offer a definition. Definition is the home where an owner and the owner's family, if applicable, resides or intends to reside as the primary dwelling, provided, however, that no person shall hold concurrent rights in more than one principal residence. Also, using principal residence would be more consistent with our zoning bylaws, which frequently refer to principal, often spelled principal. Yeah, use building and activity. Those bylaws, on the other hand, never use the word legal in any of these contexts.
Yeah, we were discussing that at the last meeting, if we should include the word legal. But if it's not necessary. And the wording that we've got is consistent with other uses, I'm fine with that.
Yeah, makes sense to me.
Okay.
Steve, any input?
It makes sense.
Principal.
Yeah, I think it's one of the cleaner, more concise definitions.
Okay, principal residence.
Principal residence.
Consent?
Yes, so we should change any language where we use the word either legal or primary, it should be say principal.
Next on Dan's list, special permit criteria.
Correct.
We've all got Dan's memo.
Yeah, go ahead.
Any discussion here as far as what he recommended?
Right, does everyone have that list of Dan's recommendations?
Mhm.
You have that, I don't,
I don't have,
the only thing I think that was missing was, well, actually, he kind of touched on it with the proximity to another short-term rental.
Yeah, the recommendations.
This was Dan's draft from 124, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
that's what I'm looking at. Let's go see.
Rob, do you have an extra copy for John?
I do not, but I'll let him see mine.
I saw it.
bringing
I
it.
don't see what you just mentioned. Woody.
Oh, that was new. That was something someone else suggested.
We did talk about that, yes.
Yes. It was one of the things that we kind of was throwing around.
Yeah,
Before we had this list, we were talking about, should we include the density of the units or proximity to another unit?
Mhm.
I mean, and that would be the only thing I would put up for discussion. Is should we add like a 9 criteria here that say that it should at least take into consideration? But the board should, when they adopt this, they should take into consideration
density
proximity.
of short-term rentals in the immediate
Does that sound like
vicinity.
a reasonable thing to take into consideration if you're the special permit granting authority?
Effects, if any, of proximity to another.
To another short-term rental.
Yeah.
I think that's covered under the detrimental aspect, right, of the neighborhood.
I'm not sure, I mean, because that's,
It certainly
Yes.
could go there, and we
I mean, you
could,
could, you say detrimental to the neighborhood and bring up a lot of different things, right?
we could also, I mean, start it off small and say no direct abutters.
What?
Yeah, but see, then that would be
Direct
too.
abutters, I mean,
Meaning.
No direct-
That might be too specific, I don't
Okay.
know. If there was 2 direct abutters on a street of 30, then that's not a lot, right? If there's
Right.
one in every other house, then that is a lot, but they're not, if they're not direct abutters, then that kind of doesn't really
I
apply.
wouldn't want to assume, I wouldn't want to restrict it and assume that the neighbors hate it. The neighbors may not hate it.
Oh, no, I'm not saying that, like, should the special permit granting authority be able to use the concept of proximity in their findings? That's the criteria, right? Just like any of this other stuff, it's a criteria.
Durations.
I mean,
That's actually, I think, to some degree already in the special permit process criteria.
yeah, but we want to develop specific.
I understand,
criteria for
but
this
these,
special permit.
I agree, but this doesn't go away.
No, I understand that.
And we add to it.
You know. I'd rather be repetitive than leave something out. If that's what we think we want, that's all. I'm not saying we should do it. I'm just throwing it out there as a consideration.
I think that goes with the detrimental effect.
Okay, so you don't think we need it then?
Yeah,
I don't think
we
that's
need to
really
spell that
something we
out.
need to spell out.
Right, and if neighbors show up and they don't like it and people are yelling
Okay.
at them over porch or whatever, then that's gonna be reflected already.
So this criteria that Deanna has provided for us, I mean, I don't have any issues with any of
No, I don't.
I think they're good
it. They
considerations.
look pretty good.
Yeah.
I agree.
Everyone else
Yeah.
feel the
Agree.
same way?
Yep.
Yourself, Steve, also? That seem
Number specific factors that are set forth in section 9. What is section 9? Is that
Section.
That's the section that allows for granting of special permit. It's like the whole special permit and variance
the
section.
current existing one?
Administration and enforcement.
Okay.
Yeah, no, the existing section 9, not like a new section 9.
No, not at new section 9, no.
Goes to 8. Goes to 8.
No,
That
section
says
9 is.
I
is the-
agree.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
it
It's
just
not
looks like-
line number 9, it's section 9, it's zoning bylaws.
Administration and enforcement.
Right. Section 9 is all that.
Oh,
It covers a lot of ground.
yeah.
I think they're great, yeah. I didn't know what that was. I thought that was another section that we were gonna.
No. Oh, no. That's an existing section.
More specific, I think, would be section 9.08. That's where we get into special.
I think it's great, and I think number 8, kudos to Dan, you know, I think that was a big concern of ours, of everybody's that called in.
Yeah.
You know, with that.
Yeah, no,
Nobody to Nahant comes in here and starts a problem, so.
I'm with you. All right.
Okay, can I
Do we
get
wanna-
I get some notes on that.
This one?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But do we agree this is, we are headed with this criteria? Do we want to put that in the form of a motion?
Yeah.
Somebody want to make that motion?
So moved. Would you like me to?
Motion on the floor to accept the criteria as it's written.
As submitted
As submitted.
by Dan, town council.
We got a second on that?
Second.
Any other discussion? Votes in favor?
Aye.
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 Vote is unanimous.
So, Mr. Chair, it's important now that this submission always stays with the minutes. So when someone looking at this a year from now sees the minutes and then says submission, given that the vote is predicated on the submission, so it's got to be together whenever they're filed or sent off to the clerk or wherever.
All right, done.
Great.
So, let's see. Principal residence is in his primary residence. I don't know why I wrote it twice. Clarify owner. Okay, owner adjacent as far as the table is concerned.
Oh, yeah, you guys didn't address that. It's just, it's very simple. I think you guys are meant to say that the owner adjacent also can only be in R1,
It would
R2.
be, yeah, it would be, well, yeah, B1 and B2 should be,
The same as the other two.
yep,
It should be, right, it should be the same as owner occupant. Or owner,
Right, owner occupied.
owner occupied.
could be a P, not
Permitted
a.
all the way across. Yep.
Yes,
Absolutely.
I don't think that was,
Jason. Create purpose section for new article.
Wait, hold on. Can you take a vote on the owner adjacent to make sure it's crystal clear?
yeah, sure.
Okay. So the motion would be, the board moves to place owner adjacent in the table of uses to be permitted in R1, R2, B1, B2, and not permitted anywhere else, which is public and natural resource. So you can just say so moved, so moved.
So moved.
I got you.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, great.
It's unanimous, motion accepted. Passes. You got Rob, next.
Yep. Got that one. Create purpose section for a new article.
I think you guys already did that. When in the Rob submission, there is a purpose section in there, so I was a
Right
little
at the
ahead of
very
myself.
beginning.
Yeah,
yeah.
exactly. I was a little ahead of myself.
Okay,
Sorry about
all right. That was
Okay with
that's
that?
where I was going. Thought we already had it.
that. Yeah, you're right.
All right. Next thing that is missing that I think we need to at least discuss, and we've actually brought it up a couple times, is what is the license fee going to look like?
Oh, yeah.
So,
Fee.
so let
John, how
me,
much is the health inspection?
There's no fee for an inspection due to a complaint response. There is a fee established, and I'm not sure, Dan, you could correct me if the fee for the certificate of fitness was established by town meeting enabling that certificate of fitness, or is it to be determined by selectmen?
A town meeting wouldn't do that. That'd be something selectmen would.
Good.
And the
Good.
one thing to keep in mind with this is that we've got to be, if we're ever challenged on it, we got to be able to say, well, it's this fee because it would cost the town this much to pay John to go look at it, or, pay chief, the chief to go look at it, something like that. So it's got to be
Yeah.
somehow based on. this is-
Theoretically, any fee that the town charges is supposed to be reflected the cost.
Yeah.
Of providing a service. So if someone's gonna put in an application fee, we're talking about the actual fee for the registration, right?
Yeah.
So we're gonna have administrative fees. We've
Yes.
got people handling paperwork
Administrative
and
costs.
figuring out who's gotta see that, right? Then we've got a certain number of inspections to do. Are we gonna include all that in just this registration fee? Are we gonna? Do we wanna start divvying up inspection fees?
I would
No,
like both
so do it all in one.
I would go with
I'm
one,
with you. I'm just
And-
wanna make sure I'm on the right page.
and I would at first consider making it equal to a certificate of fitness fee. Because you're looking for a certificate, a license, a permit. It involves an on-site inspection, and it involves some administrative activity. They're not exactly the same, but close enough. If one goes up, the other one should go up. And so now I don't remember if the certificate of fitness is 35 or 50, something like that. But I would go along with the section that says fee to be determined. The intent of the committee is to make the short-term rental license fee equal to the certificate of fitness fee.
Oh, so, or we can say that it's the same as the certificate of fitness
Well,
fee or something like that?
I wouldn't want the submission to town meeting to connect it in writing to the certificate of fitness, but it
As
is,
an example.
it is, yes, as an
All right.
example. Right.
So let's back up a step. Do we need to have this fee in something that goes to town meeting?
I don't think so.
Because isn't that gonna be part of the, like these, the rules and regulations part, which is in and of itself is not gonna be approved at town meeting. It's not gonna be subject to approval. It's
To be determined by.
pretty much once we establish that a short-term rental exists,
And
then it's gonna be up to the Board of Selectmen to determine
that's
exactly
right,
how
yeah.
this
Yeah.
whole thing, whether it's my office, your office, Steve's office, or what, you know what I mean? It's like which office, because that's not been established.
Fee.
Who's really gonna handle all
But
this stuff,
first-
right?
fee to be determined by, or at a later date, or by selectmen, or something like that.
No.
We don't need to nail down a number.
But I'm saying, do we even need to talk about it?
I wanna talk about
Well,
it because.
It's
I would
part-
say-
it's part of something that we don't need to have done in the next 2 weeks.
No, that's true.
The
to be
only thing we
determined.
need to have done is the proper
Yeah.
paperwork that's gonna end up going in front of the voters of the town of Nahant.
I
Okay,
think,
there will be a fee.
Well, yeah.
I don't think there's any question that.
It's right, it's in there. It goes to town meeting fee
Well,
to be
we
determined.
have that we got so much paperwork now, I can't remember
Well,
which
it's
piece of
like-
paper is which,
So,
but
yeah, zoning bylaws, but you don't have, anything that says that you have to pay a fee to the building department when you pull a permit, but you still pay the fee, right?
well, no, it actually does. It says in
Fee-
somewhere in here, it says that the building department shall establish fees.
Okay, there you
Done.
go.
That's what
The
it says.
town shall-
That's what the paperwork says. It
Okay,
doesn't
so
say what
that's
the
we
fee
should
is.
say. The town
Because
shall
that fee
establish
changes, can
for the
change.
Application, why don't we say that?
Well, but you don't want to say for the application.
For the-
But it's not, you don't want to limit it to that. A fee to be determined.
That's okay with me too. But again, I'm not sure we even.
yeah,
need
I
something.
agree with that.
I think we-
Giving it some thought, the selectmen every July, around July 1st, they take the fee schedule, which is like that long.
Yeah,
And they go through it.
And they,
approve it,
I can
they
come through
change it.
my office and ask me to,
Yeah, I
should we
get-
raise
I
the
get-
fee for a
Yeah,
building?
Get the same thing.
And it's,
yeah.
yes, no, maybe a
Yeah.
little, things like that.
I think
But it
it's in-
changes annually.
Okay.
I think,
Well, can change annually.
I think it's important that fee be there mentioned as a section, and it's okay for it to be determined.
I agree.
I'm with you.
And that could become part, Dan may have other thoughts on this, but like I mentioned in the last meeting, I've got an appendix section here of various things that we've touched on with recommendations as to what that might look like. And so we could put it right in there if we wanted to. It's basically a record. Yes, we did talk about it. This is where we went with it.
Okay, as long as it's in
Somewhere.
the body. That goes to the town meeting.
We good with that?
Yep,
All set?
yep,
Okay,
Next.
next item.
ripping right through these here.
Well, that's all the official stuff that I had a list on, as far as what came out of the last meeting and what Dan has made recommendations on. An additional thought that I had was whether or not we wanted to also make a recommendation that the town apply an impact fee. Because that becomes available once you get into professionally managed units, which basically the law talks about professionally managed units. It talks about people who have more than one in the same town, basically becoming eligible to have, the town can apply a 3% impact fee. The town, other cities and towns typically have done it. The town does not to appear have ever really talked about it when they were initially accepting the 6% that was approved at town.
Yes, okay, it's that
So-
part of that.
It's, yeah,
Piece that
they went
they
with
give
the
to
first
town.
piece, but they didn't talk about the second piece. I don't know if we, if this is as far as how things are developing in town, whether this is something we want to recommend they at least look at or just not, I don't know.
I think town meeting has to do that. I'm
No,
not sure.
yeah.
Okay, so I don't think, yeah.
Well, I was just talking about it as far as making a recommendation, maybe you want to look at this.
Exactly. Is
Okay.
it something that we want to recommend to town meeting?
Yeah. I'm not going any further than that.
No, it's a good question to raise. I agree.
Well, that would require a separate warrant article.
Really?
There's something
Sure.
in the, you might know, Rob, there's something in there though. If you take that 3%, you have to like allocate it.
Yes, it has to be.
6% is almost free.
Yep, absolutely.
3% you have. to-
You're exactly correct. And in this case, we've got a sewer project that's right through the roof. And I can't think of anything that might be a better fit.
I mean,
I mean,
I don't-
I'm certainly not gonna object to it. I don't understand it as probably as well as I probably should, but I'm.
So they get 6%. First, they get the state.
the state-
gets
what-
six. The state
state
gets
gets six.
Then the
Okay.
town can step up, which the town of Nahant did several years ago and voted when they formed this committee or the idea of the committee and said, we want 6% as well. So now the state
that.
gets 6, the town gets 6, and now the town could get an additional 3. So the town will get 9%, and that's a dollar for dollar. If someone stays for $200, the town gets 18. If the fee was 9%, of course. But that additional 3%, as Rob just mentioned.
It needs to have a designated,
Yes,
Yeah.
I think if we think the town could not put themselves in hot water and not take that step to allocate it, why?
So here's my thought.
Free money of the town.
ahead.
Yeah. The town already passed this to the town meeting for the 6%. And they thought about it. So I'm thinking if they didn't add this community impact fee, there may have been a reason for it. Because, let's face it, everybody wants more taxes, right? So why didn't we ask about it 2 years ago? Maybe we should ask
well,
Tony or the selectmen if there is some hook for this.
In which case they
3%.
say, well, we already talked about it, we're not gonna do it.
No, but I'm not
I-
saying.
I
they're not
could
gonna
say-
do it, But there
I-
are requirements for this 3%.
well. I won't say we, I have a meeting tomorrow with the finance committee.
Check with them.
So that's, my original intention of being at this finance committee meeting is to say, our committee doesn't really have a financial impact on anything. This is what little bit of financial impact we do have
That's excellent.
is. So it'll be the-
Yeah, so
Discuss
that's
it then, huh?
there's a reason why they didn't recommend it to town meeting like 2 years ago.
Yeah, so
Right.
I would just, let's hold off on it until
Yeah, we can figure it out.
till after we talk to the finance committee. I'm sure they won't turn down a free buck.
I would think so.
You know what, it could be that.
But, again, there must have been a reason.
Grasp it.
Well, maybe they didn't understand what.
Kind of
they were
confusing
getting
when you first
involved with.
read it.
Ray brings up a good point.
It's
And
kind of like when they first instituted the local meals tax thing. We weren't even charging that for, I guess, for way too
Forever,
long,
yeah.
from what I understand. We had the ability to add on our 1% or whatever it ends up being, and we didn't, for whatever reason.
Why am I not shocked?
I mean, there comes a point where you charge a tax, then you and your family are paying that tax, right? So, you know. gotta
Okay,
Think about
Okay.
that too, but anyway, so yeah.
it'll be brought up tomorrow.
We got set at, Wayne, there was some math done at some point, and I think we've discussed it here. It was projected like, I think Tony referenced it too, about $200,000 from short-term rentals a year. So if at 6%, let's say the moon is $200,000 annually, obviously 3% would bring it up 100,000. An additional 3% could mean annually, so.
Okay. What else you got, Ron?
One last thing that is, again, not coming from any of the other committees, but this is something that I noticed in Swampscott. And basically Swampscott, as we talked about, they created their travel district or whatever, well, I can't remember the term.
Yeah, right, yeah.
Overlay district. And they also have a section regarding transient occupancy. I have it here somewhere, but I think I can do this without it. Basically what they did is they had a list of the types of transient occupancy that they might expect to find there, such as hotel, motel, bed and breakfast, are the three that stick in my mind. I think there were other, I know there were others. But as they start that section off, they have a comment, and it's something like this. Should I pull that up? I know I have it, but it'll take me 5 minutes to find it. Anyway, what I'm recommending is the following language potentially being added to the definition of short-term rental.
Okay,
And what that would say is this describes all types of short-term, parentheses, less than 28 consecutive days rental, regardless of their subclassification. And my understanding of what they're trying to get here is that no matter what you give it for a name, if it's less than 28 days, this covers it.
so you're just kind of throwing a bigger blanket over
It's just, yeah,
the
and
whole
yeah.
concept of
and
short-term
they
rental.
basically, yeah, if they don't say short-term rental, they do say bed and breakfast, but in their definition of bed and breakfast, they say, but you don't have to serve breakfast. If you're doing this for less than 28 days, this is what it is, regardless of what you call it.
Right,
I don't know if we can. I mean, there's legal language in the state, because early on, I think to this committee, but he called into the planning board too, a gentleman said. Hey, I have traveling nurses coming in all the time, and you know. If they're staying under 30 days on a whole different site, nothing to do with Airbnb, you guys are gonna squash them too. And
I've read specific language about that particular subject, and I have seen it, and I don't remember which city or towns
I think there's business.
regulation stuff in there, but they were excluded from these rules.
Right,
Like that's on the Governor Baker's tax imposition on short-term rentals. He said you're not a short-term rental. I think he's expanded it to traveling first responder or a business stay, a furnished business stay for less than 28 days.
If that's in language at the state level, then we need this language.
no, I don't think so.
Let me, I have live internet, so I'm actually on
We can just
Swampscott.
check that.
sounds like.
I know I've read-
Attendance as well.
In,
Yes.
one of the 24 or so local ordinances and bylaws and stuff that we've gone through that like the nursing thing and stuff was been specifically excluded from the
Right,
short-term rental
Right.
rules. But again, I don't know if we specifically need to do that or not.
Okay. I thought, I have,
Should we put something in our new bylaw that excludes that? In somewhere in the definition of, should that be included in the definition of short-term rental? Excludes X
can I,
and
I have
Y.
Swampscott's here, I can read it to you.
What does it say?
Okay, this is their section 5.13.2.0. General regulations for all types of travel and tourist lodging establishments. This section describes the provisions related to all types of lodging establishments regardless of their subclassifications. They go into the various regulations specific to lodging establishments, length of stay, no less than 1 night and no greater than 30 nights. No guest or lodging may claim residency. Let's see, and then they get into bed and breakfast. Overnight transient lodging accommodations within a residential building that is offered to the general public for compensation. Bed and breakfast establishments may also provide limited ancillary facilities and services to its guests, but not to be the non-guest general public. The following regulations pertain specifically to B&Bs. The B&B shall be subordinate and incidental to the main residential use of the buildings. The guest rooms may not comprise more than 50% of the gross floor area. Guest room units shall be located within the primary residential structure. Food service within a B&B shall be limited to breakfast and shall only be available to registered guests. This food service shall not constitute a restaurant and non-guest. Common areas where guests can congregate may be provided. Basically, they're just putting everything that comes into this category within this and saying, we don't care what you call it. It's going to be this.
But the
But they don't
exemptions,
exclude,
right,
they're not excluding anything out of it.
Boston, I'm reading, I looked it up. Boston says additional specifications, units that have contracts with hospitals are not considered short-term rentals. Upon request for special services, you must show the contract exists between healthcare, government, or nonprofit. Contract must describe the legitimate use. Units used for furnished, institutional, for business days are not considered for short-term rentals.
business stays.
That's a lot
That's
of
what gets
language
me.
though.
Well, the business stays.
I think it's in the,
It's also
It's
city.
Contractual business stays, which would be travel nurses, flight
oh,
attendants.
yeah.
Insurance agents.
Mhm.
So contracted,
And that, you're
Business.
reading that from Boston?
That's city ordinance.
That was from
City,
Boston.
so it's
I
local.
think that should be the language that you would see in the state level. I searched mass short-term rental laws.
All right, so let's tweak it between now and next week.
What?
Well, let's define it better between now and next week and make a final decision.
Yeah, I'll take.
Whether we want to specifically put language in our definition page or not.
And we'd be able to do that under the regulation portion of the statute that uses that power, so we can do that.
You think we could just throw it in the regulations part?
Where'd you go, Dan?
Yeah, we lost you, Dan.
lost,
Dan, you're on mute.
The statute says we have the power to regulate short-term rentals, so this would be a version of that. So we'd be on pretty clear ground being able to add that limitation or exclusion.
Okay,
contracted business stays. That's the phrase I'm going with.
so what other issues that we have that we haven't discussed at great length?
You brought up a little earlier, and Dan, tell us if. And Dan just stepped away.
That's all right. So what are you thinking?
A little earlier, you mentioned that we haven't gotten into the enforcement part of it. Now, we know it's going to be enforced, and so maybe it belongs in the rules and regulations, but is the building inspector going to be in charge of enforcing the health code?
Well,
Or
that's just it. We don't know who's gonna enforce any of this
that's
right
why I'm
now.
bringing it up now.
But I think that's gonna to be determined.
Again, do you think it's in the rules and regulations?
Yeah,
part of
I
this
don't think,
effort?
I don't think it belongs in the actual zoning bylaw change portion.
Well, if we're gonna have the section that says fees to be determined. I would want to communicate out in our report that we have discussed enforcement. And it is to be determined by Selectmen.
Didn't we vote on the fact that enforcement will be consistent with the zoning bylaws that are currently in
did.
effect?
That the fee schedule
Yeah.
will be consistent with the zoning.
Yeah.
That's what we
So
discussed.
basically, let's say somebody rents on long term and you discover that and they didn't get health inspection. Right? So then you use the zoning bylaws and the health code to enforce the code, right?
True.
Right? So I think it should be the same. Basically, the zoning bylaws are your enforcement, have an enforcement section.
We do.
And
We have an
then-
existing
yeah.
enforcement section in the
Like
zone.
someone has a building permit for a building, right?
Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
yeah, then you use the bylaws to issue a fine that's consistent with the zoning bylaws. So I think what we discussed last time was this will be the same. If somebody operates short-term rental and doesn't get a permit, and use the bylaws to charge the penalty.
Well, I wouldn't go so far as if they don't get a permit. The enforcement of the regulations.
So let's assume, right, so someone has a permit and is registered.
Yeah, and organizes a wedding and advertises
Oh,
that.
and then I
online,
think-
right?
No,
Instead of talking about what they're doing wrong. The application for a license or a permit, or whatever calling it, triggers an inspection.
yes,
So the individual or people eligible to conduct the inspection are determined by whomever makes the rules, and it's either town meeting or select. I'm saying eventually it's gonna have to be nailed down as to whose responsibility it is. Either and not certainly by name, but as who's in charge of the signage. What's that?
Authority having jurisdiction, you should just leave it open.
Yeah. Just as we addressed fee, I think we need to have a line enforcement to demonstrate that it's been discussed, and if it's not determined now, it is mentioned to be determined.
Dan put some language already for us too. Oh, he said it would be wise to refer enforcement to our pre-existing non-criminal disposition bylaws. Inspectional Service Department and the NPD or the designees shall be responsible for enforcement of this ordinance, including any rules, regulations promulgated hereunder, and shall institute all necessary administrative or legal actions to ensure compliance.
Yeah, sounds good.
sounds like it covers it.
Or as assigned. I wouldn't want it to be limited.
It says inspectional services or NPD or their designees.
Yeah, we talked about this in a previous meeting.
Yeah, I just don't
Whether or not
recall
keeping
coming to
police
a
or not.
conclusion.
Okay,
Right, because not every issue is gonna be specific to one person
Right.
necessarily,
No,
right?
certainly,
Some issues could be more police related and other issues could be, building inspection related.
so
And we could throw the Board of Health under the bus every once in a while.
well,
we currently have the Inspectional Services Department. Doesn't that bring you both?
nope,
Technically, no, he's works for the Board of Health,
which is whole and.
but we could, I don't see why we can't
Why don't we
add Board of Health to it, whatever language we've
Inspectional
got already
Services,
going.
Board of Health.
Yeah,
In fact, I'm just because we're talking about it now, I remember reading it, Mashpee or somebody, the whole shooting match comes under the Board of Health for whatever
Mhm.
reason.
Mhm.
They just, where they put it,
And-
they
and
just
that's-
kind of put the Board of Health in charge of all the short-term rental stuff.
Yeah.
I don't.
What kind of-
I voted
Whatever
against-
reason,
against
no, I'm just saying, they happen, it just brings to mind.
Yeah. Yeah, of everything.
And I actually did that back in '93 when our Board of Health passed regulations for bed and breakfast.
For,
And then it was repealed later.
as well as certificate of fitness. Put totally within the Board of Health.
Yeah.
And wow, that was a lot. So. Back to my point, just as we have fee to be determined, enforcement. To be determined or assigned or
No, we have the language from them. You can just use it and add Board of Health. to it.
Okay, okay.
I don't see why we can't.
Sure.
I think that works for me.
Right between inspectional services and the Nahant Police.
And I'm in favor of that. It mentions the three most likely, but it adds or designate.
Mhm.
And that's, I think, the way it should be.
That sounds
Or
good.
designee.
Yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
It's
So
in
I think
there,
these
Rob.
people-
Yeah.
It's in
Well,
the
I think you guys are looking at two different things.
brown line. Right, first draft, Feb 1, 2023.
Yeah,
It's right above Appendix A in that brown font.
right.
Okay.
Well, yeah,
This-
that's in the penalties and stuff like that.
Does
All
this,
right, so
does
what
this
other
need a motion?
territory have we not, do we need a motion for that? Would you like one? Someone
Only
put
if
it in
we-
the
if we
form,
need it.
yeah,
Could you just
oh, it can't hurt that, can't
Um,
hurt.
I think the way you read it, adding.
We add for our, what would this be for?
Enforcement, yeah.
In regards to enforcement, we state that the Inspectional Services Department, Board of Health, and the Nahant Police Department or their designees shall be responsible for enforcement of this ordinance, including any rule or regulation promulgated hereunder, and shall institute all necessary administrative or legal action to assure compliance.
Including qualifying initial inspection. Because that would not be seen as enforcement, or it could
Oh,
be,
okay, I see where you're coming.
right?
Yeah.
Right, it's not punitive, but it is qualifying.
Okay, where am I inserting that in that paragraph?
Towards the end,
Yes.
So we got designees shall be responsible for enforcement of this ordinance, including any rule or regulation promulgated hereunder. And shall institute all necessary administrative or legal action to assure compliance. And period.
And John wants you to add additional language.
but
right?
where would the right place be to
Well, we can
insert?
figure it out.
I think right where Rob just read it.
Yeah,
He finished with a period.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think you change that to a comma and then go.
You could do that, change it to a comma and say
But-
inclusive of.
Inclusive of, and feel free to massage it in if you,
I just want to make sure, yeah, I will, but I want to get it in the right spot here as far as inclusive of.
any initial qualifying inspections.
Any initial. Okay. Good,
Sounds good.
yeah, I got it
Okay.
now, I'll be able to get it later.
Okay. Next. We got, what other unfinished items do we have going in right now?
Any other loose ends?
I don't think we do. I think we're doing damn good here.
How about anything regarding existing short-term rentals that
oh, yeah.
are either problematic or have a great track? Because as
That's-
this goes into effect, everybody starts at zero, but I think
That's
there's been a lot of involvement by the public that, maybe folks that do this right feel slighted.
typically at the end of a bylaw or ordinance is this will go into effect X number of days after final promulgation or some such. Dan, you know what I'm talking about?
Well, it gets kind of weird because zoning bylaws are actually retroactive to the date of the first notice of the hearing of the planning board. That's right in the statute. We might have discretion to move that to, the sunrise date, so to speak, like the 1st of January, 2024, something like that. We certainly can do that with our other bylaws.
Right.
But the zoning bylaws are very specific in terms of. But I do believe we can. move
Reverts
that.
back to the advertising so that you can't, someone sees a zoning change that looks like might harm them. They can't run
Run to
into
your
the
office.
building department and,
Yeah.
pull a permit to do something that they wouldn't otherwise be able to do after the zoning change.
Now, I know there's not a great log of complaints, but there are some that were known and recorded. What about anybody before that first recorded submission by the planning board? I
don't understand what the concern is, whether you already have one or you're gonna get one.
Well, there's a limit on them, so should we? What if somebody right now says, I'm gonna put in 100 permits? I I feel like the priority should be the existing.
Well, I think that was already in the criteria.
Yeah.
We already listed that.
Yeah,
We went over that last,
Yeah.
we did do the unanimous intent.
You guys, we said that there's a limit of 4%.
Correct.
Right.
And so what one of the homeowners was talking about last time is that the existing short-term rentals that are in good standing, no complaints, should have a priority, should there be more than 4%. You know what I mean? So
so,
that's what she recommended, and we were all kind of okay with this.
can you read?
I'm okay with the concept. I just not sure where to put it.
No, we have a
But again, I
unanimous,
think that's the rules and regulations section.
It goes in or into the appendix. I mean, I don't know if it's our choice.
unanimous intent in our last meeting went into the minutes. And I think that applies. No existing operation will be penalized due to 4%.
I can
Cap.
read it.
Go ahead, please, yeah.
It is our unanimous intent that current short-term rental operators will be considered and will not be penalized in the promulgation of whatever short-term rental bylaw is voted by town meeting and then approved by the Massachusetts Attorney General's office.
There you go.
So none will be
So, yeah.
penalized. I take that to mean that if you're already existing, you still have to apply for a license.
Right.
It will be
Yeah.
reviewed.
Mm-hmm.
And if we see that there's complaints, we will look at the complaints and make a decision factoring those complaints in.
Mhm.
And it is within the town's authority to say no. Oh, wait a minute, I'm already existing. You said we won't be penalized. Yeah, you're not being penalized because you're pre-existing or that we've got a cap. You're being turned down because it is in our opinion, whomever we are, that this is not okay. This is not a good fit. This is too many complaints or that kind of thing.
I think exactly what I was saying, but now the contrary of that. What about the person that says you've done great, haven't had an issue?
Approved. Go.
So that would grandfather them in.
Well, I wouldn't use the word grandfather.
Yeah, we don't
Don't
even use it. Yeah,
That's a bad word.
yeah,
Yeah.
they're not grandfathered. No,
That's nothing here is grandfather.
no, you're.
Well, no, but I'm saying nothing here is grandfather.
Go and prosper.
How about
I mean, let's-
that in language?
Oh, you don't have to.
Well, we
We've already-
already have language that says we're gonna essentially give preference to existing operators. I think that's what it says.
By preference, that means we're not gonna put anybody out of business until we've reviewed your application and determined that you're either approved or not.
Would there be any advantage in adding a comment regarding individuals currently doing business in town must have records demonstrating that the property has been rented during such and such period of time for such and such how many days? And the only reason I ask this is to avoid people saying, I gotta get a license now. I mean, I gotta register with the state right now. I've never rented the place.
I'm just gonna
I
go
just want to
get
get
the
the
license so then they can have it.
information with the state so that I'm in the door.
Yeah, that's
Understood. Understood.
everything. Yeah, this is everything that
I'm not sure how you
kind of
put
think,
that
you
in
know,
words,
we
but
have some.
I've seen that
Some
in
great
other
apples, so.
other cities as they were developing this. They wanted, and I don't know where to set the date.
But
Maybe you
but
can
no,
put that in this.
oh, hold on. If we were to use that, means we're grandfathering.
That's right.
Yeah,
I actually agree with John. We should, yeah. We should just
and
leave it alone.
we're not grandfathering. Apply. Give us your package. We're gonna review the package you submit. Oh, you're registered with the state? Have you ever rented to anybody? No? What are you doing?
yeah, I will
And-
certainly be.
and I say that one down the bottom of the pile. Well, let's look at the low hanging fruit first. Approved. Maybe deny, and not what do we have left?
I don't think we would have the legal authority to guarantee an existing operator a permit or a license or whatever we're calling it. I don't think we could do that even if that was our
Because they
intention.
Whether we have it or not, I would be opposed. I think we go the.
Yeah, that would negate
We-
the whole purpose of us, because then if you're running a nightmare or an unsafe situation, we just said,
Oh,
You
yeah.
did it for a year.
keep
It's
going.
gonna be okay. Yeah.
So we go with what? The
Just
last
leave it as
meeting,
it is.
and we're done.
Yes,
Good.
Okay, I'm good so far. What else we got?
I think we're done.
So we've got specific bylaw changes. We've got it in green, we've got it in red, got them in a couple of different colors. We need to make sure we get all our bylaw changes in one place, right?
Yeah, and then.
And that's essentially what that is right
When we
now,
go to the final version, all the discussion comes out and we're left with
right, with
what's
that.
there. Yeah.
Okay, so we need that. We need to finish that.
What was that?
That's a bucket where I've been tossing stuff that we've talked about that don't necessarily fit in here, such as the good. Good neighbor, what do we call
Yeah,
it?
the good neighbor
Yeah.
guidelines.
Good neighbor guidelines.
Yeah, we made the intention of the committee to require a special permit for non-owner occupied short-term rental. We haven't necessarily voted that because we wanted to talk about the criteria before we actually voted it. I think
I
that's,
thought we did vote on that.
well, we said it is the intention of the committee to require a special permit for non-owner occupied short-term rental, rules to be determined prior to final vote.
Yeah, but we already voted to change the table of use to signify special permit. So is
Okay,
that-
so that, I mean,
we-
if that's the case, then that can come back out.
No, I'm just saying
Yeah.
that's why I'm assuming that we made that decision. It's not something we didn't vote on
Yeah,
anymore.
okay,
We voted on
Well,
it.
we
We said
got-
that that's what
you're
the
right.
designation is gonna be,
so that comes back
the
out.
special permit use.
We're all set there, then the next one would be 4.06, no such rental shall be for a period of 28 days. That's for the renting of rooms for rumors of.
We voted on that.
You're back at the top,
Yeah,
short-term rentals are permitted as an accessory residential use.
That's been excluded.
Yes, we need to delete that.
We deleted that.
So appendix A, third bullet.
oh, right.
Item 1 is being what, just deleted
Hmm.
only updated.
Yeah, that's.
Two becomes one, all short-term rentals should.
Yeah, that's already been yeah, that got copied in.
Item-
I've already made the update in the actual document. This is just stuff that we needed to talk about and I need to take it back out again.
I have your the new one still, item 1 is only operator occupied short-term rentals and owner adjacent short-term rentals are permitted. That's the newest one.
I don't think so.
Might have just accidentally said it, but I got it, your email open right now.
First page under requirements in green, you see only operator occupied short-term rentals and owner adjacent short-term rentals are permitted. That's been crossed out. The what used to be number 2 is now number 1.
Okay, so this says
Even done.
draft Feb 1, 2020.
Yeah, if you see it in green, that's from the stuff that we did last meeting.
Yeah, no, must be an old copy, but I'm right.
Yeah, I think this is a.
So this is first draft, but this is from today. Sounds like you have a better. Number 2, I don't know what chairman and Board of Health think, but all short-term rental operators shall register with the Inspectional Services Department. Should it be AHJ or the authority having jurisdiction or?
That language isn't part of that language isn't part of the bylaw right now.
Oh, so these are,
Not that language,
Hmm.
correct? That's not part of our bylaw changes.
no, this was item
This is
2 or what is 1 on the
Yeah, appendix
updated
A.
copy for appendix A.
But it should,
These are kind of the rules, the regulations.
these are the
Okay.
rules and regulations section. That's the last thing that we need to tweak is our rules and regulations section.
So shall we take this out because it's part of the bylaws? The requirement to register?
No, that's not a part of the
No,
bylaw.
it's not.
No,
So we'll leave it.
No, our bylaw doesn't say anything about registration, yes.
Stating here, though, the inspectional services department will be their place to register with.
We are gonna have more room to move that around between now and when it becomes
I
effective.
did have a question mark there as far as under regulation, the inspectional services department. And I'm just in italics, is that the selectmen or the planning board? Both, who is that?
It would be smoother if it was a selectman because they're already the local licensing authority.
Leave selectmen?
That would be the smoothest route, yeah, because they
Yes,
are the local licensing.
I agree. When in doubt, selectmen, they can assign.
Yeah,
The
right,
selectman can
exactly.
assign
Yep.
right down from there.
Yeah,
John, item 3, 105 CMR 410.000. That's your code that you want.
that's the state housing code.
Okay, so it says a dwelling unit or bedroom offered for short-term rental shall comply with 105 CMR 410.000 minimum standards of fitness for human habitation. State Sanitary Code, Chapter 2.
Yep.
Good. And Wayne, for you, 780 CMR,
Mhm.
state building. If you guys want, I'll just read down
Yeah,
through
let's,
these, or
let's go.
Wanna
through
read
it.
a couple? Go ahead.
number 4, dwelling unit or bedroom offered for short-term rental shall comply.
That should be number 3.
Okay, I'm sorry. Yeah. On this silly thing, I still have that number 1. So number 3, a dwelling unit or bedroom offered for short-term rental shall comply with all standards and regulations promulgated by the Department of Inspectional Services. Selectmen?
Yeah, Board of Selectmen.
Well, if you're talking about specifically to a room, a bedroom, then that falls under the building code.
Okay.
Shall comply with the building code.
You don't really have to say that. It already has to comply, right? That's already the law. So
Oh, yeah, that's
why
right.
I would add that.
Well, it is.
The law.
Yeah.
But we've seemed to be repeating a lot of things that maybe it's already stated elsewhere, but we're making sure nobody
Okay.
glosses over it, I guess.
I think these are a lot of repeating. I don't know. The only couple of them I know, I'm just trying to go through and pick out ones like John had voiced interest or concern about swimming pools or hot tubs. So we actually put language. I think Rob did it.
That's number 12.
Yeah, he referenced the CMR 435. So I figured I would read every individual code and everything. So John could say, no, that's 434.
435. Yeah,
Okay.
we're good.
So
Okay, so shouldn't we remove this because it's actually a repeat of what we just said before? So we have this section that says a dwelling unit or bedroom offered for short-term rental shall comply with the health code and building code, and then we repeat the same thing pretty much. Like, in the next bullet. We say shall comply with all standards and regulations promulgated by the Department of Inspectional Services. So is
I
it
would
the
take
same
that
thing?
out.
Yeah, let's take that out.
Yeah.
Same thing, saying the same thing.
just
yeah.
repeating
Keep it short and simple. That's the code. That's the key,
Catch.
right?
it, simple as possible.
Number
5
4.
4.
A short-term rental operator may make available no more than one dwelling unit for operator occupied short-term rentals, which may include separate short-term rental of no more than the number of legal bedrooms in one dwelling unit for owner adjacent short-term rentals.
I'm surprised that got through.
I don't know what that means.
That's confusing.
Yes.
I'd get rid of that.
I would delete this.
Well, don't we have covered that in the definition
Yeah.
section?
We already covered that in the definition, so I would just delete this. It's already confusing.
So delete 4. Yeah, 4.
Yeah.
So but currently,
Next
number
one.
5 would be, thank you, John. Operators of short-term rental shall remit to the appropriate body all fees and taxes as required by the city or state authorities.
By the town of Nahant now. We're not the city.
Yeah.
Do we really need to put that in writing though? I mean,
I don't know.
This is the last 8 sentences of this thing. So once I get through these.
Yeah.
This working draft, we've gone through front to back.
So
So,
basically what we're saying, is this trying to say
Pay your
that
taxes.
people need to pay taxes in order to get a permit? Because if you're
Yeah.
delinquent on property taxes and you don't pay your water bills or whatever, you shouldn't be operating and, generating business.
But that's already a general bylaw.
Yeah.
Is it?
Like I can't issue a building permit to someone that hasn't paid the property
Okay,
tax.
so we can delete this then.
Body and fees.
We're taking that out?
Yeah, if it's
Yeah.
already part of this whole thing. then-
So at 5, so 6 short-term rental operators shall maintain state mandated $1 million liability insurance to cover the short-term rental use.
I think we
That's
should
state
delete the 1
mandated?
million
That's state mandated.
and just say, or if it's already a law, do we need to keep it here? Because if you say million and they increase it next year for $1.5 million,
Right.
Good point.
that's gonna be questioned.
Just take out the million.
I would
Yeah.
either take out
Mandated.
State mandate.
Yeah, right, don't put the, take the number.
And short-term rental operator, 6 short-term rental operators shall maintain state mandated liability insurance to cover the short-term.
Mhm.
Number 7, an owner adjacent short-term rental may be rented only as a whole unit to one party of short-term renters at any one time and not rented as separate bedrooms to separate parties.
Correct.
Definitely agree with that.
Yep.
It's not redundant, right?
Nope.
Nowhere else,
That's
okay.
good.
Number 8, the number of individual bedrooms made available for operator occupied short-term rentals within a dwelling unit shall not be greater than the number of the lawful bedrooms in the dwelling unit. That's what we said earlier.
Yep,
Yeah.
that's what we said.
9, renting for an hourly rate for rental durations of less than 24 hours shall not be permitted. I think 10
Yeah.
in,
That's a typo. Yeah.
Yeah.
okay, so renting for an hourly
Yeah,
rate,
yeah.
rental durations of less than 24 consecutive hours shall not be permitted.
Yeah.
Strongly agree.
Yeah, that's, yeah. Okay.
Yeah. It's interesting.
That would be weird.
A day.
To live next to that one.
It's called something different than. Number 10, a short-term rental property shall not be used for a commercial event during its occupancy as short-term rental. Commercial events including luncheons, banquets, parties, weddings, meetings, charitable fundraisers, commercial or advertising activities, or other gatherings for direct or indirect compensation.
Okay, can we say commercial events including but not limited to?
Yes, yes,
That's a lawyer talking.
I know, yeah.
yes, yes.
In
No, it's it.
this same,
Included but not limited.
Yeah.
Yes.
same vein.
Yep.
Do we say anything about not allowing what I've read called theme B and Bs?
What is
Okay,
that?
what's the thing?
A
What's the
theme B and B, somebody sets up something that's Harry Potter land.
Oh, yeah.
Do we really care? Somebody.
I'm just talking it out. I mean, it can get a little something else too.
On the outside of the property?
On the inside of the property.
Well, there, I mean, you can
Yeah,
decorate
I
your
mean,
house any way you want. I
I-
mean,
I would
look,
see
you're
the
gonna-
reason.
okay, well, this is cute, but this is not,
What if he's attending the party?
That includes Christmas theme,
yeah.
Yeah.
Easter theme.
I'm just tossing
St.
it out.
Patrick's
No,
theme.
I'm not sure we want to get involved in that.
Yeah.
That's fine. We could save that for a later date.
Yeah.
Spring theme.
So we go ahead, but not limited to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do that.
Commercial events including but not limited to
Yeah.
functions, banquets.
You got that, Rob?
Yep,
Good.
So 11 would be operator must submit off-street parking plan for guests in accordance with Nahant zoning bylaws, section 408B, parking of vehicles, table of required off-street parking 6-1. 1 or 2 family multifamily accessory lodging in section 5.02.f.1 dimensional requirements.
Yeah,
That all those digits sound right?
Sounds good to me.
Perfect. When a swimming pool or hot tub or special purpose pool is included in the short-term rental, or when a pool or hot tub is rented alone. I think we should delete that.
or we should delete that, we should be writing that on.
Yeah. Determination of compliance with 105 CMR 435 sanitary standards for swimming pools must be documented by the Board of Health or its designee.
Mhm.
Mr. Board of Health?
That reads, yes, that correctly. It wasn't clear to
Yes.
everybody?
Oh, yeah, that's clear to me.
Okay, good.
The only thing I will say, being on the planning board for so long, one member gets particular with submittals for a special permit. And she will say those are not they will say those are not architectural plans. That is not a professional surveyor. Because our building, our bylaws state for a special permit, you need architectural plans. And
Our bylaw also states that any or all of those criteria can be waived.
it does.
Yes,
Good, good.
it has since the very beginning.
That's why you're here.
That's why I get kind of bent out of shape when, whether it's the ZBA or the planning board
It does.
gets all excited about, well, you're not giving me what I want.
Right, okay. That's what I always thought. I always would say there's a checklist here for things you have to check that you need. It's not a checklist like your to-do list when you go to the grocery store. That's to be done by the building inspector.
Right.
Okay, all right. Good.
Okay, what else we got? Looking good here.
I have one thought,
Go ahead.
and that it's very simple. In what I think is going to be the new section, what we're talking about now is section 19 or general bylaws for the most part. You can see there on the first page of what you're looking at now, there's a bunch of definitions. Well, a lot of these are already defined in section 2 of our general bylaws, so I don't think we should define them again. It just could lead to confusion.
Sometimes it isn't the redundancy not only helpful but important. But I agree with you that the duplications should be reviewed, but not eliminated completely. We've gone over it several times where we think that it's important to emphasize one thing or another. So we're going to do that, right? But we haven't done it yet. Take a look at what's already covered.
But Dan, what we're covering now is not necessarily a change to the general bylaws, it's our rules and regulations page. But the rules and regulations page is gonna be under the jurisdiction of the Board of Selectmen. In other words,
Right,
what we draft up as rules and regulations doesn't have to go into the general bylaw,
that's true. You're right, you're right.
right? It's
so-
gonna be that, you know, jurisdictional section. Because
Okay.
ultimately, it all goes back to the Board of Selectmen, no matter what we may or may not write here, it all ends up in their hands, whether we like it or not. They're ultimately gonna be the authority having jurisdiction,
Okay,
right? Does that make sense?
it does. I read some of these though as bylaws, not rules and regulations, like the purpose. It's really that's like a bylaw thing, when you define the purpose of the bylaws. Requirements.
Talking about
I
little
sub-
things like shall comply with, the
Oh, I
bedroom
agree.
shall comply with the building code. That's a reg, not a rule.
Right, oh, it's like the
not a-
appendix. I think you're thinking of the appendix. That's more like a bunch of regulations and rules, right? Is that what
Because
you
we
mean?
really, it seems to me that we've got our zoning bylaw changes.
Yep.
We're tweaking them, but we've got them down to a comma or two at this point.
Yep.
We've got the one general bylaw change.
Mhm.
That we've already agreed to. And then everything after that is a rule or a regulation.
Well, we need somewhere in the bylaws that we enable this body to create rules and regulations for short-term rentals. That's got to be somewhere. And maybe this can flow from that, but that we've got to enable a body to do that.
Okay, so we need part of our actual bylaw change.
Maybe that's something Dan could help with.
Sure. Yeah,
Awesome.
that's no problem at all.
Your suggestions are always helpful. The emails, huge.
Because
Well,
that pretty much wraps us up in a big
I
old.
think, yeah, next week, I think if we meet on Tuesday, we can have this on the second on Wednesday and you've done your job.
So the Tuesday
Looking
before the
good.
meeting is 2 weeks, if you guys wanna put the meeting off till then, because I think Rob had.
I got it down for next Tuesday because we were rushing
Well,
to.
because the selectmen want to have it before the 14th.
Yeah, but
Before the 15th.
can we
Yeah.
just get it done next week and?
Let's do
Yeah.
it. Just keep
Yeah.
going.
Absolutely.
If it's gonna be a quick. I'll call in.
I think it's gonna be plenty quick.
Yeah, I'll go too. I'm not gonna be here.
But no, I think we'll be looking good. We can wrap up the loose ends here and get this done.
If something goes wrong, we still got another.
And then, yeah, God forbid, we should need to have some kind of another meeting to clarify,
Yeah.
but let's get it done.
Okay.
So who's not going to be here? I missed that part.
I won't.
Steve?
And I'm not here either, but I'll dial.
Well, you mean physically, you won't be here, but
Physically,
you're gonna be,
yeah.
if you, as long as you're on the screen, then that's fine.
I'll be on Zoom.
Steve, you're not gonna be around?
I could probably call in.
Well, no, what I can do then is send you what, Steve and I'm sorry, Rob and I have to work on
Jeez.
just
Yeah.
finalizing.
Oh, wow.
I can send a copy to you, and you can just send your comments back, and we can share them with the whole committee.
Okay, yeah, and I'll see how the.
We want to be unanimous, finishing this up with unanimity.
That's why
So,
for the
That's why I turn your
town,
phone off.
myself.
Wow, that's a commitment.
Hey, I took my little machine to Florida with me in October. I was answering email in Key West.
Oh, it's
I know I'm out of my mind, but it's easy.
Public service is,
It's easier to do one a day than it is to do 20 when you get back.
yeah.
Okay, let's open up the meeting to the general public. We have anyone on our Zoom connection that would like to make a comment, a question? Words of encouragement. I see someone by the name of Eric with a hand in the air. Do we need to unmute him, Rob? Or is he doing that?
Oh, he's
Up in the top right corner. There you go, Eric.
Yes, Eric Curtin, 49 Tri-Mountain Road. I appreciate all your work, but I do want to tell you that I think you're making a serious mistake ignoring the proximity issues of short-term rentals.
We're not ignoring.
Well, I have 5 abutting properties. How many can be approved as short-term rentals?
Yeah. Well, we've already established that depending on what version of a unit it is, that it's going to be allowed as a matter of right upon registration. So if it's owner occupied, there's not going to be anything we can do about it anyway.
So all 5 of my abutting properties could be owner occupied short-term rentals.
They could be.
That destroys the residential character of my neighborhood entirely, which is one of the things that you're trying to avoid.
I think that's what the rules and regulations will hopefully handle.
They don't though.
There's none right now. There will be, and there'll be a complaint process, and if any of them fall out of character, I think, you're gonna have a strong leg to stand on with saying so.
I don't want to have to complain about my neighbors. I want regulations put in place that regulate the 64 that we're allowing, that says, well, only maybe it's one of my abutters can have one, maybe it's 2. I don't know what the right number is, but there should be some regulation that means I don't have to fight with my neighbors over every single application that comes in for short-term rental.
Oh,
And
I
what you're
can't imagine
causing is you're
how
causing
you would
that
regulate it
argument to
any other
happen.
way.
There is a way. You can put a proximity regulation that says only every 400 feet, 200 feet, 300 feet. You can say
You
only
have
a
any-
single abutter.
So how many of your neighbors are short-term rentals? I think there have been short-term rentals on Dry Mountain Road. I think one of them was converted to long-term rental.
Do you have any now, Eric?
Do you have any now?
Well, we had 3 this past summer. 1 legal, 2 not. But of course,
No, well,
Well-
the 2 that are illegal.
Yeah.
If I would certainly, I mean, if you've got illegal rentals going on, then you've got to let somebody know about that.
I
think he's trying to avoid.
I don't want to get
Yeah.
into legality or
But if they're
illegality.
going
because
in illegal
I view
short-term
it
rental,
all
what's
illegal
some
in the first
bylaw?
Yeah, but the bylaw is not gonna do anything against the illegal. I mean, you can
That's
have
not going to
people,
help.
you can have people not getting health inspections for long-term rentals, and there is no bylaw that's gonna prohibit that. That's just a neighbor reporting somebody, and John has to take action the same way as somebody builds a basement apartment illegally, and then if Wayne doesn't know, then he can't do anything
Right.
about it, right?
I mean, certainly in the special permit category, then that will give the special permit granting authority. They already gonna have the option of using proximity as a reason how to judge something, but just to put a specific, some number of feet on it, I don't see how that works.
Well,
So that just means first man in gets a permit and no one else can have one? I don't think that doesn't,
Yeah.
I don't see how that would hold up to any kind of legal challenge.
but your view is that every single one of my abutters can have one. And I don't see how that maintains the residential character of my.
I'm not gonna disagree with you, but I don't see how we can regulate it otherwise.
Yeah,
And there is still, you still have the neighbors, you still talk, it's like
I don't
us,
want to
right?
belabor the argument or the discussion. I just want to express my disappointment.
No, well, I
Thank you.
appreciate your,
Thank you. Eric.
I understand and appreciate your situation. I'm just not sure how to fix it.
Well, yeah. I understand completely. At least to some small extent, the language supporting the special permit, I'm hoping gives people like Eric the opportunity to come to a hearing and express his thoughts on why or why not a certain.
I totally
should not be
understand.
allowed,
That was,
should be allowed. And it also, as I understand it, gives them the opportunity to take it a step higher if necessary, but. You know, obviously, I had said previously that I would love to see even a 500-foot gap between any two. Obviously, we went in a different direction on that, but I still. I think we miss an opportunity. But you know, like I said, the committee has gone in a different direction on this, and I can only hope that it's going to be
And
in.
it's a start. I mean,
Hey.
we're back here next year.
Yeah.
We have a mechanism built in, but the trigger is people with complaints speaking up.
That's right.
And I.
Which has always been the case.
But I get it.
Yeah,
It doesn't feel right,
yeah.
tattletaling on, or
Yeah.
pointing a
It's-
finger. or-
that's-
It highly favors the person who's pushing the envelope because
Yep.
no one wants to get into it. And quite honestly, it can come back and bite you if you do. So
I understand.
that's a
Okay.
big part of my purpose for being here.
I understand.
And I think-
Okay, I've got another hand up on the screen. Dan,
Oh, that might be the mouse.
Dan, don't,
Yeah, no, that was my mouth.
is that you? Oh, all right. No, that was our mouse. All right.
We'll get that hand out of there.
Okay, well, I'm not seeing any other participation on the screen. So I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
second.
All those in favor? Vote is unanimous. Meeting adjourned.
Thank you, everyone.
Yours is
7:27. Good job.
Good job, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Dan.
Steer us to adjourn.